the sound of laughter. Not the good kind, the cruel kind that echoes in school hallways and stays with you long after the bell rings. Sarah Martinez sat alone at her lunch table, staring at the sandwich her mom had packed that morning. She didn't see the group of seniors approaching. She didn't see them recording on their phones. What she did see was her wheelchair being kicked out from under her bag. What she did hear was them calling her cripple loud enough for the entire cafeteria to witness. Nobody helped. Everyone just watched. But what those bullies didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that Sarah's uncle rode with the Iron Knights Motorcycle Club, and in exactly 1 hour, the rumble of 50 Harley-Davidsons would shake the walls of Preston High School. This is a story about justice, family, and why you should never, ever underestimate the heart of a biker. It was a Tuesday in March when everything changed for Sarah Martinez. She was 15 years old, a sophomore at Preston High in a small town outside of Phoenix. Born with cerebral palsy, Sarah had used a wheelchair since she was 7. But if you asked anyone who actually knew her, really knew her, they'd tell you that wheelchair was just something she sat in. It didn't define her. Sarah was sharp, funny. She had a 4.0 GPA and dreams of becoming a civil rights attorney. She'd crack jokes about her disability before anyone else could, not because she was ashamed, but because she refused to let it be the elephant in the room. But high school has a way of bringing out the worst in people. There were 4 of them. Seniors. The kind of kids who peaked in high school and would spend the rest of their lives reliving these so-called glory days. Tyler Davidson was the ringleader, star linebacker, untouchable in the social hierarchy. His buddies followed him like shadows, Marcus, Jake, and Connor. They'd been targeting Sarah for weeks, small things at first. Accidentally blocking the wheelchair ramps, making car crash sounds when she rolled past, stupid, cruel pranks that adults would dismiss as kids being kids. But that Tuesday, they crossed a line. The cafeteria was packed. Over 300 students eating lunch, talking, living their teenage lives. Sarah sat with her 2 friends, Emma and Josh, at their usual table by the windows. She was telling them about the debate competition she'd qualified for when Tyler's voice cut through the noise. "Yo, everyone, check this out," he was filming. Marcus had positioned himself behind Sarah's wheelchair, and before anyone could react, he grabbed the handles and yanked backward. Sarah lurched, her lunch tray crashing to the floor, her books scattered across the linoleum. The cafeteria went silent. "Oops," Marcus said, smirking at the camera. "Guess she needs better breaks." Tyler zoomed in on Sarah's face, on the shock, the humiliation, the tears she was fighting to hold back. "What's wrong, cripple? Can't take a joke?" The video would be uploaded to social media within minutes. By the end of the school day, it had 40,000 views. But here's what those boys didn't know. Sarah's mother, Diana, worked from home. She saw the video 30 minutes after it was posted. And the first call she made wasn't to the school principal. It was to her brother, Mike Hammer Rodriguez, president of the Iron Knights, MC. If this story is hitting you right in the heart, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started, and you won't want to miss where this goes. Trust me. Let me tell you about the Iron Knights. They're not the motorcycle club you see in movies. No criminal enterprises, no drug running, no turf wars. The Iron Knights MC was founded in 1987 by a group of veterans who came home from war and found themselves struggling to adjust. They bonded over their bikes, their service, and a simple code: loyalty, respect, protection. Over the years, the club evolved. They organized charity rides for children's hospitals. They escorted funeral processions for fallen soldiers. They mentored at-risk youth. But beneath all that community service lived something primal and unbreakable, a brotherhood that would ride through hell for one of their own. And Sarah? She was family. Mike Rodriguez had been riding with the Iron Knights for 18 years. He'd introduced Sarah to motorcycles when she was just a kid, letting her sit on his Harley while it was parked, teaching her about engines and freedom and the open road. When Sarah's father walked out on the family, Mike stepped up. He was at every birthday, every school play, every doctor's appointment. So when Diana's voice came through his phone, shaking with rage and heartbreak, Mike's world stopped. They hurt my baby, Mike. They humiliated her in front of everyone. Mike watched the video. He watched it 3 times. Each viewing made his jaw clench tighter, his knuckles whiter. By the 3rd time, he'd made his decision. He sent out a single text to the Iron Knights group chat. Church, now, family emergency. Within 20 minutes, 17 bikers had arrived at the clubhouse. Within 40 minutes, Mike had explained the situation and shown them the video. You could have heard a pin drop in that room. Finally, a biker named Diesel, 6'4", arms covered in military tattoos, spoke up. So when do we ride? Mike checked his watch. School lets out at 3:15. I figure we arrive at 2:30. Make our presence known during lunch. A younger member, Rocket, raised his hand. We going in hot or cold? Cold, Mike said firmly. We're not there to fight kids or break laws. We're there to send a message. We're there to make sure Sarah knows she's protected. And we're there to make sure those punks, and that entire school, understand what happens when you mess with our family. By 1:30 p.m., 53 bikers had gathered in the parking lot outside the clubhouse. Some were in their 60s, weathered and wise. Others were in their 20s, hungry to prove themselves. But every single one of them wore their Iron Knights patch with pride. And every single one of them was ready to ride for a 15-year-old girl they'd sworn to protect. Preston High School sits on the edge of town, a sprawling campus of brick buildings and manicured lawns. At 2:28 p.m. on that Tuesday afternoon, the first rumble could be heard in the distance. Students in outdoor classes looked up. Teachers paused mid-sentence. Security guards walked toward the front gates. Then they appeared. 53 motorcycles rolled into the parking lot in formation, a river of chrome and leather and thundering engines. They moved with military precision, parking in neat rows that took up half the visitor spaces. When the engines cut off, the silence that followed was deafening. The bikers dismounted. They didn't yell. They didn't threaten. They simply stood there, arms crossed, wearing their colors. The Iron Knights patch gleamed in the afternoon sun. The school principal, Mr. Henderson, rushed outside, his face already red. You can't be here. This is school property. Mike Rodriguez stepped forward. He was calm, respectful, terrifying in his composure. We're not here to cause trouble, Principal Henderson. We're here to have lunch with our niece, Sarah Martinez. That a problem? Henderson sputtered. You can't just... There are protocols. Are we breaking any laws? Mike asked. We're parked legally. We're not armed. We're not trespassing. We're simply concerned family members who want to check on our girl after she was assaulted in your cafeteria this morning. The word assaulted hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Henderson's face went pale. That was a student matter. We're handling it internally. By doing what? Diesel stepped forward. Those boys still in class. That video still online? What exactly are you handling? By now, students had flooded to the windows. Phones were out. Videos were being recorded. And somewhere in that building, Tyler Davidson and his friends were starting to realize they'd made a catastrophic mistake. Mike pulled out his phone. Sarah's in room 214. We're going to walk to that classroom. We're going to check on her. And then we're going to have a conversation with you about school policy and how you plan to protect vulnerable students. You can call the police if you want, but I promise you, the optics of cops removing a veteran motorcycle club that's here to protect a disabled girl from bullies? That's not a good look, Principal Henderson. Henderson knew he was beaten. I'll escort you myself. Comment below and tell me, what would you have done if you were Principal Henderson? Would you have let them in? Let's discuss. The walk through Preston High School that afternoon became legendary. 53 bikers moved through the hallways in silence. Their boots echoed on the floors. Students pressed themselves against lockers, eyes wide. Teachers stood in doorways, unsure whether to be afraid or grateful. They found Sarah in her history class. And when Mike appeared in the doorway with the entire Iron Knights MC behind him, Sarah's face transformed. The hurt, the embarrassment, the fear, it all melted away. She burst into tears. Mike knelt beside her wheelchair. "Hey, Mija, you okay?" She nodded, unable to speak. "We got you," he whispered. "Always." The teacher, Mrs. Patterson, who'd heard about the incident, stepped aside. "Take your time." What happened next was simple but profound. Each biker took a turn approaching Sarah. They gave her patches, pins, stickers. They told her she was strong. They told her she mattered. They told her they'd be checking in on her. Diesel gave her his personal phone number. "Anyone gives you trouble, you call me directly." And then they turned their attention to Tyler Davidson. They didn't touch him. They didn't need to. Mike simply walked into the gym where Tyler was at practice and stood there. 50 bikers flanked him. The entire football team froze. "Tyler Davidson," Mike said. His voice was level, but it carried. "Come here." Tyler tried to swagger, but everyone could see his hands shaking. "You know who I am?" Mike asked. "No," Tyler managed. "I'm Sarah's uncle. These are her family. And we came here today to make something very clear. What you did to her was not a prank. It was assault. It was cruelty. And it ends now." Tyler opened his mouth to protest, but Diesel cut him off. "The video's been reported. Your actions are documented. Your future just got a lot more complicated, kid. We've already contacted a lawyer. Sarah's pressing charges. But here's what you need to understand. This isn't just about the law. This is about knowing that for the rest of your time at this school, we'll be watching. Every game, every event. We're going to be in the stands. We're going to be present." Mike leaned in. "You want to be a man? Start by apologizing, publicly. And then you spend the rest of your senior year making sure Sarah feels safe here. Because if she doesn't, we come back. Understand?" Tyler nodded, tears streaming down his face. The story exploded. News outlets picked it up. "Bikers Defend Disabled Student" became a national headline. The original bullying video was taken down, but footage of the Iron Knights arriving went viral instead. 20 million views in 3 days. Preston High implemented new anti-bullying policies. Tyler and his friends were suspended, then expelled after Sarah's family pressed charges. They're now facing misdemeanor assault charges and community service. But more importantly, Sarah became something of a local hero. The Iron Knights adopted her as an honorary member. They showed up to her debate competitions wearing their colors. When she graduated 2 years later, all 53 of them were in attendance, cheering louder than anyone else. Sarah's now in college, studying law. She still calls Mike every Sunday. And she still remembers the day she learned that family doesn't always look like you expect. Sometimes it wears leather and rides Harleys and shows up exactly when you need them most. This is why I tell these stories. Because the world isn't always kind, but there are still people willing to stand up. There are still warriors who protect those who can't protect themselves. So the next time you see a biker, don't judge the leather or the tattoos or the loud pipes. You're looking at someone who understands loyalty in a way most people never will. Hit subscribe if you believe in standing up for the vulnerable, and drop a comment telling me about a time someone stood up for you. Let's build a community of protectors right here. Ride safe out there. And remember, family isn't just blood. It's who shows up when you need them most.